Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be building up this landing page. It has some bits of CSS grid and CSS flexbox, so we're going to be using both of them accordingly. And we also have some bits of CSS positioning, such as this line right here is going to be positioned absolutely within this black rectangle. And it has some bits of grid, just some simple stuff that we are going to be doing in this video. So above this is a link, and this link leads to the original design of this landing page. So if you visit this link, then you're going to go to this page, and it is a design on dribble.com that was made by Ramotion. And so the reason why I did a redesign is because I don't have access to the images that they have used inside here, and I don't have access to the fonts as well. So I just did a redesign where I made some bits of changes, and I also used a different font, and I used different images as well. But this is the original design. You can check them out on Dribble. So to begin, what I've done is I have a fonts folder which contains the fonts that we're going to be using in this video for this project. And then I also have an images folder which contains all the images that we are going to be using in this project. The design preview is the preview of the entire desktop design. The chair is this part right here, the black arrow that we're going to be using, the ellipse, which is the circular thing. Let me show you this line right here. We have the social media icons. We have image 1 and image 2 being this one and this one. We have the logo being this one, and then we have the white arrow being this little white arrow that you can see here. Let me zoom in. So this little white arrow right here, and then we have the yellow circle, which is also this one, and the black arrow, where is it? This one. The black arrow is going to be this one right here, as well as these two on the left, on the right, sorry. So to begin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an index.html file, and then I'm also going to create an index.css file. And then inside my index.html, I'm just going to say exclamation and enter, and it will generate this boilerplate for me because I have Emmet installed, and Emmet comes pre-installed when you're using Visual Studio Code. And if you don't have it, then you can go into emmet.io to download and install Emmet. You can follow the instructions that they have on their website. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to link my index.css file inside here. And then below this, I want to link Tailwind CSS. And I want to use Tailwind CSS because I feel like it's going to be faster. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate into cdnjs.com, and then I'm going to search for Tailwind CSS. And Tailwind here is going to be using version 2.2. So take note of this. So we're just going to copy the link tag, and then we're going to paste it inside here. And then we're going to remove this. We're going to change this into Creo landing page. And then below this, we can begin our structure, and our structure is going to be as follows. We're going to have, where is my image? So we're going to have this rectangular black section all the way to the bottom is going to be one grid, and then it's going to have multiple elements inside, obviously. And then this chair all the way to the bottom is going to be another grid, so that when we get to large screens, then we can display them side by side as they are inside here. And I hope that will work. I haven't built this out, so I don't know. This video might go horribly wrong, but if it does, then I'm going to have a lot of highlights that I can use in my short videos. So let's begin. We're going to do this. I'm going to create a section. Should I create a section? Let me just create a section. So let me call this section 1. Let me place a comment here and say section 1, and then below section 1 I'm going to create another section, and then this we're going to call this section 2, and I'm adding comments by control and /, so just like that. And then what we're going to do is, okay, I can close this. I think I can close this as well. So inside section 1 we are going to do this. We are going to have a header inside here, and then inside this header we're going to have a div. This div is going to have an image, and then this image is going to be the logo coming from /images/logo.svg. And then below this image, we're going to have a nav with an unordered list with how many list items? I think there are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. And then all of these, because they're not going to be linking anywhere, let me just make them buttons. And then we're going to have services here. So services, let me zoom in so that I can see it properly. Services, clients. So clients about us portfolio. Clients about us portfolio, and then mobile app is the last one. mobile app, and then let's see. So this is the div, this is the navbar, and then at the end we have our social media icons. So let me create another, let me go outside of this div. I can create another div, but I'm just going to create a UL with 3 list items, and then these list items are going to be anchor tags, and then they're going to go inside images. So the href for this first image says what? Instagram, Tumblr, and Pinterest. So let me just add in the images first inside here and here, and you can add multiple cursors by just clicking here and then holding down the alt key and then click here and here. So you're going to have /images / this first one says what? Instagram.svg. The second one says Tumblr. Oh wait a minute, that's not the correct icon. What do I call them? Icon Instagram. So icon icon-Instagram. This one says icon-Tumblr, and then this third one says icon-Pinterest. Why aren't the images showing up? Oh, this is images. I misspelled this in another video as well. So images, that should be fine. And then let's see. So we're going to have that as our section. And then this header is going to be positioned absolute within this black header, within the black rectangle, sorry, so that it appears on top of this black rectangle. You can do that, or you can add a black background to the header and then add a black background to this div that we're going to create next. So let me create a div here, and then this div is just going to have an h1 that says we create, and then inside here we're going to have a span that says interior experiences, and we're going to be styling this differently. So that's why I have this h1 and then I have this span, because the span is going to be a block element so that it goes into the next line. We're going to make it a block element. It is not a block element by default. And then below this, so below this we're going to have a button, and we're going to have a div first, and this div is going to house this image that we have here, our line, and then our button. So let me add an image here coming from /images / let me call it, it's called what? Ellipse, this one. And then below this we're going to have a button, and then inside this button we're going to have an image coming from /images / yellow circle, so yellow circle. And then after this image, okay, so this image is here. Oh my god, this is going to be quite a bit of playing around with positioning, because we need this arrow to come on top of this. Let me see. What we're going to do is this, because we have this image and then we have another image. So instead of having it like this, let me add in a UL, and then this UL is going to have 3 list items. So the first one is going to be an image coming from /images / yellow circle. The second one is also going to be an image coming from /images / white arrow. And then this third one here is going to be some text that says let's talk. And then we're going to see how we're going to do this. If this doesn't work, then we're just going to do we're just going to change it up really. And then once we have that, then let me zoom out, and then we are going to do this. So outside of this div, yes, outside of this div, but still within this section, we are going to create a div with 3 articles. So we're going to create a div. This first article is going to be an image, so /images coming from img1, which is this one. And then the second article, oops, didn't mean to remove that. The second article is going to have an h2 that says philosophy, and then it's going to have some paragraph text that says this. So let me just copy it and paste it in. And then below this we're going to have, let me call this a button that says about us, which has an image that comes from /images / black arrow. And then below this article we're going to have another article that has an image that says img2, this one right here. And then once we have our articles, then we are done with this first section and can move on to section 2. So section 2 is this one right here. So inside here we are going to do this. Let me see. So we have one bigger image. So let me add in my bigger image here coming from /images / chair. And then below this we're going to have a div, not a directory, so div. And then below this div we're going to have one article that says this, so it says 16 . So let me place it inside an h2 that says 16, and then inside some paragraph that says this. So let me copy this text, paste it here, and then below this we're going to have a button that says more about our app, and then we're going to have an image here which is the black arrow, so images/black arrow. And then let's just copy this down because the structure is the same, so paste it here, change this to 263. This is happy families, so happy families, and then this is our portfolio, so our portfolio. There we go. So that should be the structure done, and I'm not sure whether this is going to be the correct one. We're just going to be changing it up. So let me save this, and I'm going to be using an extension called live server, which is going to be helping me to launch a local development server with hot reloading. So the extension is right here. It's called live server. You do not have to use it, but I prefer it because it has hot reloading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate into my index.html, and I'm going to right click and say open with live server. And so once our server opens up, you can see that this is what we're going to have on the screen. Some of the styles have been reset because we're using Tailwind, and you can see that it's looking quite horrible. So let's begin to style this out. Let me place this to the right and then place it to the left. And I'm going to be starting with the mobile design first because it is much easier to deal with. But before I do that, let me first link our fonts. So inside my index CSS, I'm going to say at font face, and then I'm going to pass in font family here, and I'm going to call this YouTube Sans Light, and then I'm going to pass in a source for this and URL, and the URL for this is going to be going into the fonts folder and into the light font. So basically we're just going into this fonts folder and selecting the light font for our light font, and then I'm going to copy this downwards, so copy down and paste, and then this is going to be medium, and I don't think we're going to be using the medium font anyway, but let me just link it. And then we have medium, and then finally I'm going to link my bold font. So bold font is here, and then this is going to be bold. And then now what I want to do is I want to define the H1, the H2, the H3. I don't think I added an H4, but now this is going to be using a font family of YouTube Sans Bold. And then I'm going to define my paragraph to use a font family of YouTube Sans Light. And wait, I think this should apply on everything else that is not bold. So let me remove this from here, and let me place it above this, and I'm going to say that for everything else, for every other element, then I want the YouTube Sans Light to apply, so that when I save this, then our font is now going to change. And you know what, let me see, the light font is a bit too light, so let me say medium. Let me see how medium looks, and medium is now too dark. Okay, let's just use the light font, it's okay. So light, and there we go. And so we're going to have this. So let's begin to style this out. So inside this section we have a header, and then let me see, we have this div. Okay, so let's begin by doing this. Let's give this header a class name, and let's give this a class of bg black. Let me see. Okay, and then let me go inside this div and give this div a class of bg black as well. Okay, and so once you have that, I've noticed something, because I want these images to go all the way to the end to occupy all the space that they can. So let's jump back into our index CSS, and then let's add another style here for all the images to have a width of 100%, and then to also have a max width of 100%. So this ensures that they take up the entire width of the container in which they are placed, and this makes sure that they don't overflow outside of the container in which they are placed. So save this, and they should go to the end, and it messes up with this, but that's okay. So we are going to fix that as well. That's looking much better. And so what we're going to do now is this. We are going to go inside our header. Now let's go inside our header, insert here. Let's display this as a flexbox, and then let's say items center, and then justify between, and then let's give it a padding all around of 8 to push it inwards and downwards. Okay, and then where's my text? Oh, my text is here. So this text, let's go ahead into this UL, and not even that UL, but inside this div, and then give this div a class of flex, so that now the UL is going to come here. Don't know whether you can see it, trying to highlight it here. And then what we're going to do is inside this UL, we're going to give this a class of flex and then text dash white so that we can actually see what we are styling. And we're going to have that. And then let's go inside this image, reduce the width of this image. So give this a class of about width dash 20. Reduce it massively, let's say even 14 on mobile, that is. And then what we're going to do is now inside this UL, we're going to give this a gap of about 4 so that this separate out. And then for mobile screens, I don't want this, or you know what, let me do this. For mobile screens, let me hide the navbar. So give this a class of hidden. And then for large screens, then we're going to display the navbar. So it's going to be hidden by default. And then on mobile, let's display this as the flex box. So inside this UL, give this a class of flex and items end and justify end so that they always stay here. And we're going to have that, and then give this a gap of about 4 to separate them out. So we're going to have this on mobile screens, and this is looking okay. And then the next thing that we're going to do is this. We are going to go inside this h1, give this a class of text white, and then give it a text of about 4xl. Let me see how it looks. There we go. This is a bit small on mobile, right? And then let's go inside here, give this a padding on the x-axis of 8 to push it inwards. Okay, that is not what I wanted, because now it pushes even this circle inwards. Maybe it can still work, and I do think it can still work, so let's just have it as that. And then let's increase this to 5xl, and then let's give this span a class of block so that it goes to the next line here. And then we are going to give this h1 a class of text. I don't know whether yellow exists on Tailwind version 2. Let's try it. Okay, text yellow, we can do that. Should we use this color, or should I use the actual color that I used? Let's use this one, yellow 400. And then inside this span, I'm going to give this span a class of text white so that this is always white and then this is always yellow. So that is looking okay. And then inside this h1, let me say this, where are you? Let me go where? Here. Give this a margin bottom of 8 just to push it away from this just a bit. And then next, let's deal with this button. So inside this button, we have this, we have a UL. So let me give this UL a class of flex and text white so that we can see our text that says let's talk. And then inside this list item, let's give this a class of uppercase so that the text is always uppercase. And then increase its letter spacing by saying tracking widest. That's okay. And then, you know, let's also increase its font size by saying text large. And let me say font bold as well. Font bold, maybe. Yeah, let's use font bold. That's much better. And then what we're going to do now is inside here, still inside this UL, let's say items center as well so that they push downwards. And then let me go inside this list item. Let me say margin on the left of 4 to push away from the arrow. Let me say 6. How does that look? And then inside this image, so inside this list item, sorry, the second one, we're going to give this a class of a negative margin on the left of 4 to push it leftwards, and then on top of this circular thing, let's say margin left 5. And that is looking okay. That's looking okay. Let me try and increase the width of this image. Give this a class of width dash 10. How does that look? Let's say width dash 20. Just to make it just a bit bigger, you know, just a bit bigger. And then let's do the same for this image. Give this a class of width dash 20. How big is that? That's almost okay. Let's say 16. Yeah, 16 does look okay. It does look okay. And then finally, let's deal with this circular thing. It's very big on mobile. So let's go inside this image. Let's give this a class of width dash. Let me see how 52 looks, just to test it out. Yeah, make it just a bit smaller. And then let's position it absolute. So we're going to give this a class of absolute. So it's going to interfere with the normal flow, as you can see. And then now what we need to do is, because this has introduced something else, we need to increase the padding, or maybe even the height of this black section of this black div. So instead of giving it a fixed height, let me give it a padding on the Y of 32. That was not a good idea. Oh, you know what? It was. And then we can increase this margin here, margin on the bottom to about 20. Still too small, let's say 32. let's make it about that, and then let's bring this this image upwards a bit. Let me see, how is this going to work? Let me say here, let me bring it to the left by 0, which means it's going to be on the edge. And then because I want it to move to the top just a bit, I can say top 0, but you'll notice that it's going to come here. We don't want that to happen. So if I say bottom 0, then it's going to come to the bottom here. And that is technically okay, but I want it positioned absolute within this div. Sorry, not within this div, but within this div. So I want this div to be the parent. So I'm going to give this div a class of relative, like so, so that now it's always going to be positioned to the bottom relative to this div. So if I want it to move downwards just a bit, then I'm going to say give it a minus bottom of about maybe 20, and it's going to move downwards, and that is what we want to happen. And then let me try and remove this width to see how big it's going to be. Okay, that's too big. Let me say width of about, let's say 72. 72 doesn't exist. Wait, it does? No, it doesn't. Let's say width dash 80. Width 80 is almost there. Width, it doesn't width 72 exist? It does. It hadn't loaded in. So let's reduce this tail to 64. And then you know what, I need this to be to increase. I need this to increase. How do I do that? Should I give it a percentage width of 2/3, 2/3? It eats up into the H1, but I don't think this is a bad thing still. I don't know whether that is a bad thing. Width dash, let me take it back to 64. Let's take this to down to bottom, minus bottom of 32. Let's bring it left of 0 is okay. So we need this to move upwards. We need to move upwards, right? So minus bottom of 20, move upwards. You know what? Let me give it a fixed style. Let me give it style here, and then let's say width, and give it maybe 300 pixels to see where it goes. Okay, and then let's give it a height of 250 pixels. Okay, so that's an issue. Let's say 500 pixels. Let's say 300 pixels. Let's say 350. How about 400? Okay, so just about 400 pixels is okay. Just about 400 pixels. Let's make this larger to see how it looks. We are really going to be to get an issue with this when we scale this up, but it's looking okay on mobile. And so you know what, let me just bring it to the bottom by minus 28. So that is just to the bottom. And you know what, I'm just going to leave it at that. There's no problem. And then now what we need to do is we need to go inside this div. We need to go inside this where is it, this div, and give this div a class of relative. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I always want this div to be on top, and so that this line doesn't like overflow into this. I mean, it does overflow, but I don't want to be able to see it overflowing. So you just do that by giving this div a class of relative. And then let's go inside this second div that says philosophy, give this a class of panning all round of 8 to push everything inwards. And then let's give this h2 a class of text xl and tracking dash y dash to increase its letter spacing, and then uppercase to make it uppercase. And then you know what, let me say text dash 3xl, make it just big. And then let's give it a margin on the bottom of 8 to push away from the text. And then let's go inside this paragraph, give this a class of leading dash relaxed to increase its line height. And then let's give it a, let me say loose. That's much better. Give it a margin bottom of 16 to push away from this button. And then let's go inside this button, give this a class of flex so that this image appears side by side here. And then items dash center. And then why isn't this, why is this stacked one on top of the other? Flex item center. I gave this a width of 100%. Then remove this. Oh, really? What? Adding a width of 100% here messes with this button. I didn't realize that. Okay, so you know what, let me remove this from here. And then what we're going to do therefore is this. We are going to go inside this single image here, inside this article, and give this article, sorry, the image a width of full, which is a width of 100%, meaning it's going to stretch out to the end, and so that it doesn't mess up with this. And then we can go here and give this a gap of 4 to separate it out from this just a bit. And now let me say gap of 8, and then let's give it a text of large to make it just a bit bigger. And then let me also say font dash bold to make it bolder in font. That is looking okay. And then let's go inside this image, give this a class of width dash full so that this goes all the way to the end as well. And so we're going to have this as our grid. And then we have this next section that we're going to do right away. And so for this section, we're going to have this. What I want to do is on mobile, I want this text to appear first and then the image on the bottom, because I don't want this image to be followed by this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a class of flex and flex column reverse, meaning the text is going to appear on top and then the image is going to appear next. And that is what I want to happen. And then I'm going to go inside this div and give this div a class of padding round of 8 to push this text inwards. And then I'm going to go inside this second article and give this a class of bg yellow dash 400. Okay, that is a problem. I don't want this padding here because the padding pushes this inwards. I want this yellow to span all the way to the end. So inside this article, I'm going to give this a class of padding all round of 8. And then inside here, I'm going to say padding all round of 8 as well. So that we have padding, but it is not affected. It still goes all the way to the end. And then this h2, we're going to style this out as follows. We're going to give this a class of text dash 5xl, margin bottom dash 4, make it bigger. You know what, let me say text dash 8xl. Yeah, make it big, very big. Let me try and say font light here to make it lighter. Font normal. Okay, it's not affected because we have explicitly defined this to use the bold font. And then let's go ahead into this paragraph, give this a class of margin bottom of 10, pushed away from this button. And then let's go inside this button, give this a class of flex and items dash center and a gap dash 4 to put it here. And then let's also say text dash large and font dash bold, just like we did on this button. We're just doing the same thing here. Wait, what gap did I have on this button? Where is it? I have a gap of 8, so let me maintain it here. Let me say gap of 8 just to maintain it. And then now, because this is styled the same as this, we're just going to be copying the styles. So for this h to just copy this, paste it here, copy this paragraph here, paste it here, copy the classes here and paste it on this button, save it, and we're going to have that. And then now what I want to do is, just in case, I want to add a flex wrap here, so that in case this reaches all the way to the end, if you have a small device, then it's automatically going to go into the next line. This is just in case. It might not happen. It's most likely not going to happen, but just in case it happens. And then we're going to do the same thing on this button as well. And would you look at that? This is the mobile design, looking quite elegant. And so now what we need to do is just begin to scale this up. And we're going to begin with tablet size screen, so right around here. And what we're going to do now is the following. Let me see. So on tablet size screens, the first thing we need to do is increase the size of this h1. So let's go back to the top where we have our h1 here. Let's say that for medium screens, then increase the text to about 6xl. How big is that? Let's say about 7xl. This is probably going to be the final font size that we increase it to. Maybe, maybe not. I'm still not sure. Still not quite sure. And then let's go inside this div, which is here, and then let's give it a class and say that for medium screens, then I want this to be grid, and then for medium screens, then I want the grid columns to be 2. Let me say it looks so 1 2, yes, 1 2, and then the third one here. But let me increase the size of this paragraph, and let me say that for MD screens, then the text should go back to, this is the base font, right? Yes, that's the base font. So let me make it large. text large. And then let's go inside this next one. And for this next one, I just want to display this and this as a grid side by side. So let's go, where are you? Where are you? Should be this div. Give this class and say that for medium screens, then display this as a grid with the grid dash column dash 2 with no gap. So 1, 2, there we go. And if you're wondering why I haven't placed MD here, is because these classes are only going to apply. So this class is only going to apply on medium screens, and this class is dependent on this one. So it's not going to apply on small screens, as you can see, but it's going to apply on medium screens and above, medium screens and above. Okay, and then what you can do now is for large screens where we really want to work on this, then we are going to do the following. We are going to go back into the very top, and this is the section. Oh, wait a minute. We have two sections, which means the body is the parent. So we're going to go inside the body and give this body a class and say that for large screens, then I want this to be a grid. Then for large screens, then let's say grid columns dash 2. Let's see. 1, 2. Would you look at that? What is this gap? What is this gap? I don't understand what that gap is. And then now let's begin to restructure this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need this image to come on top. So let's go ahead and do that. So where we have, where are you? We have this flex column reverse. We're going to say that for large screens, then this should just go back into flex column. Okay, so there we go. So the image comes first, and then this text is now on the bottom. And then what we're going to do now is we need this to come here as its own grid. So let's go back on, where's this div here? And then we're going to say that for large screens, then the grid columns should be 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then let me make the height of these images full. So here we're going to say that for large screens, then H full, meaning take up 100% of the height. And then let's say that for large screens, object cover, so that like it's not stretched out. There we go. And then we're going to do the same for this image. So let's copy these tiles and place them on this image. So give this a class of this. Let me see, sorry, not this image, this is the wrong image. Cut them out from here. Should be on this image. Save it. And then once we have this, then we are going to do what? We need to do something here. We need to do something. We need first of all the height of this image. Oh, you know what? It's because this image is taking up half the width. We don't want it to take up half the width. So let me try something. Emphasis on try. Let's change this into flexbox. What happens? That happens. Okay. So if that happens, then I can go inside this section and give this a class of flex-2 probably, and then copy this and go to the bottom section here and give this and say that for large screens, then the flex should be 1. What happens? Okay, so we introduce a scroll bar. So this is flex 1. Change this into flex 1. This should still be 50-50. Okay, so that doesn't work. So therefore, let's do this. Let me move this from here, go to the bottom section, remove it from here, and instead add a fixed width, and let's say width dash 96. How small is that? That's very small. Very small. Let's say width dash, oh sorry, for large screens, let's say width dash 2/3. How large is that? Nope. Let's say width dash full. Okay, so what is wrong? Flex. It's because we're using flex. It's because we are using flex here. Change this back to grid, and then let's say grid columns 2. So width of 2/3 here. Let me see. Where are you? Where is this section? I can't find it. here with dash 4. Oh wait, this is dash with dash 4. I mean, this shouldn't change anyway, so let's say with dash 2/3. This doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. How do you use grid columns in Tailwind? Grid dash columns in Tailwind. How do you use that? There is no, not this class. There is like a way where you can make one grid to span two grids instead of one, and then leave the third one just there. So that is the class that I'm looking for. Let me see. No. What is the name of that class? Grid row start. Grid row. So row start, this is the class should be row start 1 and row end 2. Okay, let's go back here. Let's remove this width, and then let's go into this first section, give this a class, and say that for large screens, then row dash start dash 1. Okay, and then for large screens, let's say row dash end dash 2. Nothing happens. Dash 3. Nothing happens. Or is this only available in Tailwind version 3? Let me check the previous docs. Version 2. Documentation. Okay, there we go. Let's search for row end. There we go. So row start 1, row end 1, row start 1, row end 1. Probably let's remove these tags. Does anything change? Nothing changes. Let me Google how to use CSS grid. Okay, so grid row start. Let's look at this. Okay, by contributing a line, a span, or nothing to its grid in the edge of the grid area. So grid row start auto, grid row start 3, grid row start 1, grid row start span 2. Yes, this is what I want. Let's look for that class. Grid row start. There we go. Grid row span. Let's try this. Row span 2. Let's change this into row span 2. Or maybe it should be column span 2. It probably should be column span 2. Does that work? Okay. We are now making progress. Progress is now being made. So let's change this to 3. What happens? There we go. Oh my goodness. There we go. Would you look at that? Just a bit of Googling, a bit of clever research, and you get the answer. Okay, so now that we have this, then it's not quite there yet because these are not the same height as this. So what if I go inside these articles? What if I go inside these articles and say, is that a correct one? Yes, that is a correct one. Say for large screens, then the height should be full. I mean, I won't be able to tell with this article, obviously, because it's white in color, but it kind of looks as though it is more to the bottom, doesn't it? So let's copy this and paste it here. Does that work? No, that does not work because you can see that it is unaffected. So let's remove this, and let's remove this as well. I'm quite sure that it's because I gave these images a height of full. So if I try to remove this from here, what happens? Nothing happens because this image is big as it is. Let's remove the height of fold from this image, from image 1, which is this one. Okay, so that happens. How will I get them to align perfectly? Let's return the class here of height of fold, and then here as well. Let's just place it back, and then let's see. I need this to move downwards. I need this to move downwards. How do I make you move downwards? I make you move downwards by going to this div and saying that for large screen, then place item center. Is this now going to work here, or is it going to be an issue? It's still an issue because you can see that this happens. Wait, don't these images have a width of full? They do have a width of full. They do. Okay, you know what? Let me do this instead. Let me try to do this instead. So let me move this one. Let's say that for large screens, then this should be a flex box. Okay. And then let me go inside this article, give this a class of, let's say for large screens, let's say flex of 1, and then copy this class. And then let's go here and paste it here, and then let's go here and paste it here as well. So it should go back to this, and then let's go back to this div, and then let's say for large screens, then items dash center. What happens? This should move downwards. Okay, so now it moves downwards, but so does this image. I hate positioning CSS. I really do. I really do. Item center. Item start is going to take them back to the top. It's going to take it back to the top. So what I can do is what can I do? I can add a padding on the top of this second article. I can say that for large screens, then padding top should be 20 just to move it downwards, and that can work, or maybe even 32. And this can work, but then wait, what? Did this move downwards? Did this move downwards? Let me remove this. What did I do? Oops, something is wrong. Loading. Okay, there we go. Okay, it did not move downwards. It did not move downwards. Wait, why did I think that there was quite a bit of space here? Am I daydreaming? Or am I thinking of something else? I'm quite sure there was a bit of space here. Let me increase the size of these paragraphs. So here, let's say large screens, then text large, then copy this, and then paste it here as well. Wait a minute, is that the correct one? Parameters to, okay, that is the correct one. Okay, so there we go. And then, oh, you know what? Let me try to increase this paragraph text to be even larger. So text XL, because I'm seeing as though that adding a bit of space between this is making this one grow a bit bigger. So let me make it back. Let me take it back to text large here as well. And then let me go inside the paragraph. And then let's say that for large screens here, then the margin bottom should be 16. What happens? Should move downwards. Would you look at that? So now let's just play around with this. So let's say 14. What did I have? I had 12. I had 10. So let's say 12. And it's almost there. It's almost there. Just a bit of playing around with this. And then let's do the same here, just to add equal margins here and here as well. Oops, that's the wrong one. Should be here. Okay, and you can see this is the thing about flex wrap, so that now this has technically reached the end because it has a gap, so it automatically goes into the next line instead of overflowing into this other article. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's make this heading bigger. Let's make it bigger, and I don't know whether you can get it to be bigger than this anyways. We can make it 8XL, but that's not as big as you would expect Who is it? Which one? Oh, here. Let's say that for large screen, then text dash 8XL. I mean, it's not as large as we would expect it. And then now let's go inside this span, and this span is right here. And let me make it bold, by the way. I have just realized that it's not bold. And then let's say that for large screens, then the margin on the left should be 32 to push it inwards. Push it inwards away from this part. And then let's go inside this H1 and say that for large screens, then the leading should be loose to increase its line height. Okay. I probably should have done this first before I messed with this. I probably should have. So let me remove this. Let me see. Does it affect this? It does affect because we've increased the what's it called? The size of the H1. And so what we're going to do therefore is this. Let's also increase the size of this ellipsis. Let's go inside our image, and our image is this one. Yes, let's see that for large screens, then okay, I can't add it here. Oh, can I? For large screens, let's say with dash 72. Should make it bigger. Or it doesn't because of this. Does it? Does this one have lesser specificity with dash 96? It does have lesser specificity. I didn't know that. Okay, so let me say this. Let's go here. Let's say at media. Let's say that for a min width of 1024 pixels, then we should do the following. We should have a width. Wait a minute, is this even going to work? I'm trying out so many new things that I've never tried or I've never even thought of. So let's get the width to 500 pixels. Is that going to work? Okay, so that doesn't work. This doesn't work. So let's remove it from here. And then let me give this a custom class of ellipsis. Ellipsis. And then let's go inside our CSS. Let's add a media query here. And I'm going to say at media that for a min width of 1024 pixels, then the class of ellipsis should have a width of 500 pixels. We should now increase this. Wait, what? Oh, it has a fixed height. It has a fixed height. Why did I forget? It has a fixed height. Okay, then the fixed height is not a problem. What? Ellipsis. Did I copy this correctly? Ellipsis. Okay, it's correct. Width 300, height 400. Let's say this width 60%, height 70%. Give it percentage height instead of width. And then let's bring it to the left, minus left of 20 to bring it more to the left. And then let's scale it downwards to see how it looks. Okay. And then here, I want to reduce the size of this H1. So that is about medium screens here. Make it 6XL. To reduce it just a bit, nothing happens. And if I remove it completely, oops, there we go. Still nothing happens. Wait a minute, is this class already applying? Oh, it's already applying. Okay, so MD, let's say text dash 6XL. Okay. Okay, that's looking okay. That is looking okay. And then let's say that let's make it for XL screens. Then the text should be 8XL. Make it bigger. What? 8XL, not 7XL, 8XL. Yes, make it bigger. And then let's reduce this height to 60. What happens? And then let's increase this to 32. Take it more to the left. There we go. There we go. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? So now what we need to do is just to make this even, then we are going to mess up with some of these margins here. And we're going to do that right away by doing the following. We are going to go inside this paragraph and saying that for large screens, then the margin bottom should be 24. And then copy this. Oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong paragraph. That's the wrong paragraph. I want this paragraph parameters here. For large screens, margin bottom 24, and then paste it here as well. There we go. Would you look at that? Looking quite nice, looking quite nice, if I do say so myself. And when I zoom out, of course, you can see that this is what is going to happen. The images are relatively unaffected, but you can see that the text is going to move in and out. Oh, we haven't done our header. We need to fix this. So inside here, inside this header, is it here? Yes. We will say that for large screens, then give this a gap of 4, separate it out just a bit from here, and then we're going to say items dash center, so that this moves downwards just a bit. Or does it? It doesn't. But let's say, let's go here. Let's say with dash 20 for large screens. Make this logo a bit bigger. Okay. And then let's go inside this UL and say that for large screens, then the text should be large. Make it just a bit bigger. Just a bit bigger. And then probably increase this to 8 to increase the spacing. Yeah, that is looking quite nice. Quite nice. And so that is going to be the end of the project. So now what we need to do is commit this to GitHub. So let me shut this down. Let's create a new tab here. Let's go to GitHub, and then let's go to Netlify as well, so that we can deploy it. And then we can close all this down. Can close it down. And then I need to fix something in my README, because this needs to say source. Oops, source. And then URL needs to pass in inside here. So let me just copy this and paste it here. That's the correct way. That's the correct way. So do it here as well. And yeah, okay, save it. And then now we can commit it to GitHub. So GitHub, let's create a new repository. Let's log into Netlify, already logged in. So new repository, let's create a new repository. We're going to call this Creo landing page. Okay, and then create repository. So copy this link, and then let's open up our terminal using Control and J, and then let's say git init to initialize a git repository. And I'm going to say git add fonts. Oops, git add fonts and git commit. This is going to be fonts as the commit message, and then git add images and git commit, and I'm going to say images, and then git add index.css and git commit. I'm going to say styles, and then git add index.html, and I'm going to say git commit. I'm going to say HTML structure, and I'm going to say git add readme.md and git commit, and I'm going to say readme. And then I'm going to say git remote add origin and paste in the link to our remote repository, and then git push -u origin me. And then this is going to push to GitHub. So as it pushes, let's log into Netlify. Let's create a new site from GitHub. And then we're going to be searching for Creo. Let's search, let's check whether this has pushed. It has. So let's reload it, and we should see our repository. There we go. So we have our fonts. So you can go ahead and clone this repository, and then you're going to get access to the fonts and images. And I do recommend that before you begin building, then delete the index.css and the index.html file, or you can just go inside the files and then remove everything inside, so that you can like begin building a fresh one. And then let's see, so let's deploy this page, and then let's say deploy site, and then let's change the site name here. Let me change it to TsbSankara. Let's say Creo landing page. I named it wrongly, Creo. There we go. Save it, and then we can visit this page, and it has hopefully deployed. Not yet. Deploying, starting up. Okay, so let's wait a moment, and then it should have finished. But we can close this page now, and then we can close this as well. Close and close, and then let's just wait for this to finish. And just as I open it, then it has finished. So let's visit this page. And would you look at that, we are going to have our application here. Of course, it's loading the images, and there we go. So we have our fonts, we have our thing here, we have our navigation bar, we have this, and oh, wait a minute, I didn't link this. Oh, oops. Well, that's something that you can do. You can link this to the appropriate websites. And there we go. That is looking quite nice. It does look quite nice. So that is going to be the end of the video. And if you enjoyed it, then please leave a like so that the YouTube algorithm is going to recommend my videos some more. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and ring the notification bell so that you're always going to be notified of when I upload a new video.